All right, good evening. Tonight is May 26, 2026. This is your recap for today's session. The S&P closed at 7,519, new all-time high, up about 0.6%. The Nasdaq up to 26,656, up over 1%. The Russell 2000 also closed higher, up nearly 2%. However, the Dow Jones was the only red index for the day, down 118 points. And that pretty much tells you everything what kind of session this was, especially with a huge ramp up by semiconductors, mainly led by Micron, who hit a 1 trillion market cap for the first time ever. Shares were up 19% in today's session. The main catalyst being a price target from $535 to $1,625 a share. Not doubled, but practically tripled. His thesis from UBS is that AI has structurally changed the memory business. Long-term agreements with partially fixed pricing are giving Micron revenue visibility it's never had before. They see earnings per share above $100 from 2027 to 2029, with $400 billion in cumulative free cash flow over that stretch. We also had some praise from Donald Trump as well at a rally on Friday for its domestic investment. So that added a lot of fuel. But yeah, Micron has pretty much tripled this year. It was a $300 billion company in January. It's now in the $1 trillion club alongside Nvidia, Broadcom, TSM, and Samsung. Yeah, you name it. The entire memory complex, such as Seagate, Western Digital, SanDisk, all of them have been on a tear. Whether UBS is right for that $1625 mark, I have no idea. That is a pretty big number. In fact, if I pull up the daily chart here on LMU, we can see that I do have a short-term price target of about 985.60. That would be a measured move off this prior range or Darvas box, however you want to call it. So yeah, that's a big number, 1625, but the direction of the business is very clear and the stock price pretty much reflects that. On the green side of things, Broadcom was up 1.9%, Google up 1.5%, Tesla also had a pretty good day, up 1.8%, Caterpillar up 3%. And that was the main thing keeping the Dow from falling any further. Travel names rallied. United Airlines and Carnival are moved higher due to falling oil, and optimism on Iran talks. On the red side, interestingly enough, Nvidia slipped just a little bit, which is, it's funny because on a day when its memory supplier gained 19%. So yeah, that's fun. Microsoft and Amazon both on the downside there. Amazon down about 0.4%. ExxonMobil fell about 3% on the session as oil pulled back. In the Dow specifically, IBM lost about 1.25%. I think at one point it was nearly down 3%. UNH was also down about 3% on the session. Healthcare has been had a pretty interesting month overall. Eli Lilly has been beaten up, but it's trying to catch a bid. Its administration said that it does want drug prices lower. So if you're long healthcare, yeah, it's a little bit of a tricky spot. As far as the macro data goes, the 10-year Treasury yield dropped about 8 basis points to 4.4. Yeah, about 4.49%. The 2-year fell 7 basis points. The bond markets were closed Monday for Memorial Day, so this is the first session back, and traders tried to get something going there. The main reason, Iran, of course. Markets are pricing in higher odds of a deal, and they're still active fighting. The U.S. conducted fresh strikes today. The Pentagon labeled defensive, but traders are reading the two sides as closer than they've been, and oil has pretty much reflected that situation. And yeah, we got lower oil, lower yields, less inflation pressure, and that pretty much was the trade today. And semiconductors got a big pop with Micron. And we also have the SpaceX IPO, which is still in the background that everybody is paying attention to. They filed the S1 on May 20th for SPCX as early as June 12th, with a pretty big valuation between 1.75 and $2 trillion. If it prices at the high end, it's going to be the largest IPO in history by a factor of like 2, and that's going to pull liquidity and attention from everywhere else when it is going. Let's move on to today's cash session. We do have a little bit of a thin profile both on the SPY and on the Q. We can see that value area high is right here at 730.59 with the point of control right here at 728.29. And price closed pretty much right at the highs here on the Nasdaq. So my bias for tomorrow is bullish. We just need to move over and defend the 730.59 and it's clear blue skies up above. If we happen to break down below 727.31, that could open the door to fill in this thin volume down at the lows when we gapped up. And if that is the case, yeah, there is a nice little gap to fill towards the downside. So if we do have weakness and we start to break down, we got some pretty interesting targets down below. However, we did close at the highs here. Bulls continue to be pretty much in control and reclaimed all the levels from that pullback that we had last week and a half ago. As far as the SPY, we a little bit of a weaker close. We kind of closed in the middle here, which is still near the value area high of 750.49. If bulls can manage to hold over this level, we could attack this level here at 752. However, if price does start to break below 748.83, we do have a little bit of a thin profile from today's session to deal with. 748.01 would be your first target to the downside, followed by Friday's point of control at 747.26, and then we get into the gap fill down here at about 745.80. So those are my levels going into tomorrow. So definitely watch those zones at the open, see where they open up. And that is going to be it for today. I hope this was useful. Hit that subscribe, and I will see you all tomorrow. Bye, guys.